Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Martine the Naturopath here. Today we're going to be talking about how to make your own hand balm. So it is winter right now in Canada, and I don't know about you, but my skin is really dry. So one of the things that's going to help with that is obviously some hand cream. Now you might be wondering, why would I make my own when I can go and buy some from the pharmacy around the corner? Well, it's a good point, but things to keep in mind when you're buying conventional lotions and creams is that a lot of them can contain some ingredients that aren't great for health. So among others, there are parabens that are known carcinogens, there are phthalates that are hormone disruptors, and that's just to name a couple because I won't go into all of that. If you're interested in learning more about that, you can check out ewg.org. It's a great resource for learning more about ingredients in common household products, their effect on health and the environment. But anyways, to get back to it, these things can actually be absorbed into your skin and into your bloodstream and create havoc. So that's one reason why you would want to make your own personal hygiene products, personal care products. Another reason is if you tend to have very sensitive skin, a lot of these products will have fragrances or include alcohol or, again, other things that can actually irritate the skin. So if you're making your own, you have full control as to what you want to put in there. And obviously you'll already know what works for you and what doesn't. And you'll get to personalize it, you always have the option of putting certain essential oils in, but if you also don't want any fragrance, that choice is also up to you to just have it plain and simple, which is also nice. And third of all, it's also better for the environment. So unfortunately, a lot of the times when we buy these conventional creams or lotions, they come in plastic tubes, which you can then not recycle because they're full of stuff inside that you can't really clean out. So they inevitably have to end up in the garbage, in the landfill. So by making your own, you control a little bit more the types of containers that you use for starters, and you can also reuse containers as long as you're cleaning them properly. So for instance, today I will be reusing a container and I will have sterilized it beforehand. So for that, you're going to want to either boil it for a good 20 minutes or you can use a solvent such as a high percentage alcohol. So you're aiming 75% or higher, and you swish it around in there for a few minutes, making sure that everything is covered. And of course, if you've used the container before, please wash out any remaining of whatever was in there first. So without further ado, let's get started. So for today, I'm going to be using some cocoa butter and some olive oil to make my hand balm. If you happen to have beeswax, you can replace the cocoa butter with the beeswax. In fact, if I'm making a more therapeutic kind of balm or salve, I tend to use the beeswax. But because I want to just make a simple hand balm that's nice and thick for the winter, and I still happen to have some cocoa butter on hand, I'm going to be using this. And for the oil, again, you can use pretty much any vegetable oil that you have on hand. Obviously, olive oil has some really nice hydrating properties for the skin as well. So there's some bonus there, but honestly, you can use sunflower oil, canola, or if you want to be really fancy, you can get argan oil or musk rose oil for some extra antioxidant benefits. But for today's purposes, this is what I'm using. So the proportions are going to be 1:1. So I'm going to be starting with the cocoa butter. So you see I'm doing a half a cup here. I'm going to be adding a half a cup of the oil later. For starters, I'm going to do this bain-marie style, and I'm going to heat it up in here. Full blast. And we're going to wait until this melts completely. We're going to stir occasionally, and then we're going to add the oil in. So now you can see the cocoa butter is completely melted. So I'm going to remove this from the heat, and we can add our olive oil in, or our oil of choice. So the reason I like to do this in a measuring cup actually is it makes it very easy for me to see, to measure out the quantities of 1 to 1. So see, it's already at the half a cup point, so I'm just going to add until I get a full cup right in there. Okay. Now, oh, I went a little bit over, but that's okay. So depending how you do the proportions, because I'm using 1 to 1, but you don't actually have to do this. You can play around with it a little bit to see what kind of consistency you like. So obviously if you put more of cocoa butter or beeswax, you're going to get a thicker kind of balm, which might be harder to apply. Or if you use more oil, you might end up with something that's a little more oily, liquidy. So you can play around. The ultimate way to know what the consistency is going to end up being, because right now it's all still very hot and melted, is you take a little teaspoon like I have. You just take a small quantity into the spoon, and we're going to go and put this in the freezer for about 1 minute, and we're going to see how it hardens. It gives us more of an idea if we need to add more cocoa butter or oil to our mixture. Alright, so let's go do that. So while we're waiting for that to freeze, I can talk a little bit. At this point, you may want to decide if you want to put some essential oils in it or not. Today for mine, I'm just going to make a simple neutral one because I find in the winter my skin tends to be more sensitive. But if you wanted to, you could use things like lavender essential oil. This is a lavender spike. So this one is very good, particularly if you're looking for therapeutic use for any sort of skin issues, really. It kind of cleans up the skins. If you have little allergic bumps, reactions, it can be helpful, or even for bug bites in the summer. I really like to use this one for a salve for the summer, but it's not summer right now, it's winter. Otherwise, for just a more general skincare kind of vibe for your balm, you can either go with something like a rose geranium, or even just plain old rosewood. So again, these are sort of general skincare, even for problematic skin, it can be helpful. You don't want to use too much of it. If you're just using for scent, it matters a little bit less which one you're getting, because for therapeutic use you really need to put quite a lot. But if you're doing it just for scent, a good 10-20 drops in like a cup worth of salve is going to be enough just to scent it without having any therapeutic use. If you're doing a therapeutic use, that's kind of a different story. In fact, I think I'll probably just leave that for another video another day, because that's a whole topic on its own. But just some guidelines on essential oils. If you're going to use them, please be careful which ones you use. So the ones that I mentioned today are fine for topical use, but other ones you want to stay away from are things like cinnamon, which can be very, very irritating to the skin. Things like oregano or thyme, which I don't think a lot of people would think of using that anyways. And even the citrus ones. Citrus is fine if you're planning on using it as a night cream only and you're going to wash that area the next day. Because any citrus essential oils, if you expose your skin to the sun afterwards, can leave some pretty serious burn marks on your skin. So you want to be careful how you use them. But otherwise, like I said, just a simple neutral cream can also do the trick, like the one we're making today. Okay, so now I've gotten my little sample out of the freezer. This is the cream, and as you can see, it's quite solid. It comes off a little bit. It's kind of, I would say it's fairly oily, but also not too difficult to apply. So, I mean, I'm happy with this. Some people might find it too oily or too solid. So in that case, if it were too oily for you, you could add more cocoa butter for sure. But I think I'm just going to use it as is. And that pretty much brings us to the end of it. I'm going to go grab my container. Now the container has already been sterilized. I used a 75% alcohol for a container that I'd already used before. Like so. And I'll show you the final product. Check it out. Here we go, we have our final product. This is another reason why I like to use the measuring cup, actually. It makes it very easy to pour at the end. So we're just gonna go ahead and pour that right in there. All the way. And hopefully it will all fit. Ah. Yes, it's filled to the very brim, but it fits. Alright, so now we can just close this up, and I'm gonna stick it in the fridge to help speed up the solidification process. And then that's it, we're done. We made it. You made it. Aren't you awesome? Give yourself a pat on the back. So thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me a comment in the below if you tried it, if you liked it, and what your results were. Also, as usual, if you have any ideas for other videos, things that you'd like to see or have me talk about, leave them in the comments as well. So, until next time, stay healthy. Bye.